Hey everyone, and welcome back to Chapter 7. Welcome to Chapter 7, focusing on rhythm in phrases and sentences. Thus far in this course, we're right at that halfway point, and we've talked about consonant sounds and vowel sounds and the suffixes that we looked at in the previous chapter, the ed and the es and s endings of verbs and nouns. We've talked about syllable stress and word stress. So we've looked at individual words. We've looked at individual letters and their respective sounds. Now for the rest of the course, we're going to put it all together in full, complete sentences and look at how all these components that we've looked at thus far create rhythm. Rhythm in phrases and sentences. So in this chapter, you will learn the basic rhythm patterns in both phrases and sentences, and the kinds of words that are generally stressed, words where syllables have vowel sounds that are longer and higher in intonation, kinds of words that are stressed in English, and then the types of words that are generally unstressed or reduced. The vowel sounds are lowered in intonation. They're not as clear as stressed syllables. So in every language, you have rhythm or a beat, right? A pattern that exists in every language. However, when we learn a new language, what happens, and oftentimes it's an unconscious, something that we do without even thinking, we transfer the rhythm of our native language to the language we're learning, right? Without even thinking about it. And then in some languages, such as French, Japanese, and some African languages, every word or syllable has more or less equal stress. So you don't have words that are stressed and then words that are unstressed. You have more or less a monotone, equal stress pattern, like you can see here. But, 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 but. Same level of stress throughout all the words in a sentence or phrase. Other languages, including English, Arabic, and German, some words are stressed and other words are not. They're reduced, right? So, bup, 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 right? This up, down, stress, unstress pattern that we have. English certainly has that. Does your first language have that? Is the rhythm of your first language similar to English, where you have stressed and unstressed words, where the intonation rises and falls throughout the sentence? Is it more like English, your first language? Or is it more like French, Japanese, or some other African languages? And as you learn about English rhythm in this chapter, you're going to notice that your listening will improve, as you will tune your ear to listen for those stressed words, right? So your comprehension will be better because you'll better recognize the words that are stressed. And I think hopefully you'll find that your speaking will improve as well, that rather than using the rhythm pattern of your first language, you'll begin to adopt the rhythm pattern of English as you become more familiar with it. So your speaking hopefully will improve as you'll create that rhythm for yourself in your speaking. So let's do a little bit of practice with the creation of rhythm. We're going to skip exercise 1 because this is a long chapter. You got a lot of practice in this chapter. We're going to do exercises 2 and 3 on page 60. Exercise 2 just demonstrates to you that even though there may be more syllables, how can I say? regardless of the amount of syllables in a word or phrase, we create the same pattern in English based upon the strong syllables, or what we call beats. We consider a beat to be a strong, stressed syllable, right? And that regardless of how many syllables there are, it doesn't really matter because the unstressed syllables are reduced and you can't really hear them as clearly. All that stands out really at the end of the day are these strong syllables or beats. So that really, regardless of the phrase, it sounds very similar because it follows the same pattern based upon how many strong beats there are. So for example, give way, carry on, quick call. All of these phrases take more or less the same length of time, even though carry on has 3 syllables and these other 2 examples have only 2. Take a look at the next group. Give away, carry it on, quickly call. So you have 3 syllables and 4 here for the middle one. But again, 2 primary beats, two syllables that are stressed, and so they sound very similar in terms of the pattern of stressed syllables. The last group here has multiple, even more syllables. Notice how they're all following the same pattern. Give it away, carrying it on, quickly recall. So this is what we're going to look at this chapter, is you recognizing where those strong syllables are and where to anticipate strong syllables, stressed syllables, based on the type of word. And when we say type of word, we're talking about the different part of speech. And if you remember from our previous course, 65, we talked about the types of words that usually are stressed. We call that word stress. And the types of words that we generally unstress. We're going to go over that again this chapter. All right, we'll do exercise 3 now, just for some additional practice with rhythm. And we're going to look at a lot of nursery rhymes for those of you that have children. Cecilia, Maria and Marta, I know have young children. You're going to find that maybe a lot of these you're familiar with because your children are learning them now or learned them before. So children's rhymes have very strong rhythm patterns. We actually use them to teach rhythm in English to children, but also to learners of English, like folks like yourself. So what I want you to do is I want you to play CD2 track 17, and I want you to listen to each phrase here in Mary, Mary, quite contrary. And I want you to write the number of strong beats, syllables that you hear clearly, syllables that sound stressed because the vowel in that syllable is high and loud and clear. Write as many strong beats. We call these strong beats, stressed syllables. Write the amount that you hear in each fragment, okay, in each line of the rhyme Mary, Mary, quite contrary. Let's play that together. CD2, track 17.
Exercise 3A, page 60.
Mary, Mary, quite contrary. How does your garden grow? With silver bells and cockle shells and pretty maids all in a row.
That last one's a little tricky. Let's do it again, and let's do it nice and slow. Mary, Mary, 2. Mary, Mary. Quite contrary. Quite contrary. 2. Quite contrary. How does your How does your garden grow? How does your garden grow? How does your garden grow? 3 strong beats in that one. How garden grow. And then forgive me. Mary, Mary. So on the first syllable in Mary. Quite contrary. On the second syllable in contrary. All right, let's do the next one here. With silver bells. With silver bells. With silver bells. Silver bells. With, I think, is reduced. I don't think it's necessarily a strong beat. Silver bells. 2 strong beats in that fourth one. And cockle shells. And cockle shells. 2, just like the previous one. Cockle shells. And pretty maids all in a row. And pretty maids all in a row. Pretty, first syllable in pretty. Maids, I think, is a little reduced, although maybe a strong beat here. I think it begins to be reduced a little bit though. All in a row. Be similar to this pattern here, right? And pretty maids all in a row. So we have 3 for this last line here. It's this ba, 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 right? We're listening for that spike in intonation. And that always takes place with stressed words. And we're going to talk about what type of words are more often than not stressed and what words are more often than not unstressed. And hopefully by the end of this chapter, you'll be able to recognize this basic rhythm pattern that we have in English. So welcome to chapter 7. Go ahead and click on next for the bottom right-hand corner for your first assignment for this chapter.